Hey everybody, and welcome to week 8 of English 145. So we are officially now at the halfway mark of the semester, so welcome. We'll kind of just go over our schedule for the week first before I get into some other stuff. So on Tuesday, we have the first part of the student-led discussion. So discussion leaders for this week are Landon, Ben, and Kobe, and you guys are going to be our discussion leaders. So by Tuesday at midnight, you just got to post those discussion questions to the forum. So this week we are reading another one out of our current journal edition, which is We Love Discourse Groups 3000, Exploring the Literacies and Discourse Group of the Marvel Fandom by Allison Moll. So that's going to be a fun little discussion there. So again, discussion leaders just has to post those 4 to 5 questions to the forum, and then if you're a discussion participant, again, with the way that I've set up the weekly agendas for this week, I've made sure to put like where things are going at kind of the front end rather than just kind of like mixed in. So it says 2 forums or 2 assignments. So as you can see, if you're a discussion participant, which is everybody else besides those 3 people, you're going to post your 300-word analytical response to assignments. So it's going to say the third SLD part 1 or third student-led discussion part 1, and you're going to post that analysis. And again, just making sure I have here the kind of questions you're doing. It's not a summary of the article, but rather what was engaging to you about the article, what stood out to you that made sense, that you can kind of connect with, whether that's with your own project, your own writing, what made sense to you. What parts were really well written? What parts would you change that weren't maybe as well written as you would have? The changes that you would have made as an author. Did the article affect the way that you think about writing or communication? Did this article connect to your work in this class? And again, post your analysis to the assignments. And then for Thursday, so we have our part 2, discussion leaders. You are more than welcome to interact with people who are interacting with your discussion questions. You can answer back, you can talk back to people, you can link things, whatever you want to do is fine, but you are not required to. And then discussion participants, again, making sure that you're posting 3 comments. And again, just to kind of reiterate, re-explain, because sometimes if you explain things in different ways, different learners will interpret different things, right? So you're posting just 3 comments total. Now you can answer 1 question per discussion leader. You can answer 2 discussion leaders' questions, and then say you really liked someone's response to a discussion, or say you disagreed with someone from a discussion question that's already been posted, you can then comment back to that person. But you're just doing 3 separate people, right, and 3 separate comments. That's what I'm kind of looking for. So that you're just engaging with more than just one person, you're engaging with everyone. If, say something happens, whether in this discussion or later discussions, only 2 of our discussion leaders post questions, you're still required to answer and post 3 comments, right? So it doesn't matter if you're posting 1 per person, it's 3 comments total. And then making sure that you're identifying what kind of discussion question you are, or discussion response you are giving. So let me pull that up real quick here, which is they're all in the beginning of every discussion forum, every discussion thing. So there's those different kinds. So there's extend or reply, connect, compare, agree, disagree, and it gives you information as to what these kind of things are. And so you can just do that. If you're replying to a discussion question, you can identify which question. Say you're answering question 2, and you can just say question 2, comma, synthesize, comma, and then answer that, or talk about that. If you're responding to another person and not a discussion leader, you can say, hey, so-and-so, here is my response to your question, parentheses, inform, and then here's my link to the thing that I'm informing you about, right? Something like that. Just making sure that you're identifying, so that this helps, and again, just to reiterate why we're doing this, right? This helps to avoid the, yes, I agree, end of discussion. Because that's not really a discussion, right? It's not a Q&A. This isn't, a comment section, this is a discussion. So you want to have a conversation with people. And the only way to do that is to have kind of more fully fledged, robust, answers, or robust, interactions with people. So that's kind of, our thing for this week. Before I kind of get into the other things I wanted to remind you about, we'll do our extra credit question of the week. If you're just joining us mid-semester, first of all, welcome. Thank you for watching. But we do these kind of extra credit questions in the middle of these videos, or not always in the middle, but it ends up kind of being that way sometimes, where, I want to get to know you more, and that way you get to know me more. We become more of that close-knit classroom community, that discourse community of an English 145 class that I'm kind of looking for, especially when we're in an asynchronous class. We're not meeting and talking every week, right? So we want to make sure that we get to know each other, especially if I'm asking you to do things like interacting with your, peers on a forum. I want you to feel like you know me. I want you to feel like I know you, things like that. You are interacting, but just in different ways than like a face-to-face class, for example. So my discussion question of this week is, I've been thinking a lot about traveling, which I know has been very, very hard, if not impossible, over the last year. We're coming up on a year, which is so, sad, really. So I haven't done a lot of traveling, obviously, and I really do like to travel. So my question to you is, in a perfect world, post-pandemic, everything is amazing, you have as much money as you want, you've won the lottery, where are you going? Where are you going to travel to? What are you going to go see, and why? Mine, that I really do hope comes true, is that I'm hoping to go to the Netherlands in September of this year, to see a concert for Armin van Buuren. He is a DJ. He is someone that my partner is obsessed with. My partner has watched his show forever, and he just loves Armin van Buuren with all of his heart. And so they're doing a special. Armin's been doing his radio show for about 20 years, and he's having like a celebratory concert. We've got the tickets, but we just don't know if we'll be able to actually go. But we're crossing our fingers that the world is a little bit safer at that point. And I've never been to the Netherlands, and so that will be an amazing, amazing experience. And I really, really hope that it does come true. But if I could travel anywhere this year, that's where I would go. I think it's going to be so fun. If you haven't listened, if you're into more DJ type music, Armin's a really, really good way to kind of get into it, I think. So I would suggest listening to any of his music, which is like a hard thing to be like, yeah, it's all great. But if you're looking for some good ones to start, Blah 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 is probably the most famous of his songs. That's really good. Sex, Love, and Water is really good. Need You Now is really good. I mean, they're all really good. But yeah, listening to any of his music or his radio show. He does a radio show. He puts it on YouTube as well. It's called A State of Trance, ASOT. So that's really good. So check that out if you have the opportunity to do so. So email me, where is the place that you would love to go, regardless of money, pandemic, and things like that. And if you want to include any pictures of like the things you want to see at the place you would want to go, that would be great too. So yeah, moving kind of into the second half of this video, I just wanted to kind of talk about the interview aspects of this project, right? So you really need to make sure that you are figuring out who you're going to talk to and how you're going to do it. Are you going to do it over Zoom? Are you going to do it over a phone call? Are you going to send them the questions over an email? How are you going to conduct this interview with this person? So finding the person first, right? And then figuring out how you're going to do the interview, and then coming up with your questions. That's kind of the order I would suggest kind of going about it. And I would do that soon because, of the state of the world we are living in, you can't just pop on over and ask some questions and then leave, right? It has to be a lot of times more planned out than that, right? So if you look in our other category for this week, there's also what makes a good interview, and I have some YouTube videos for you to watch, and you can talk about that in the forums. There's in the Unit 2 activities, there's a forum where you can talk about these interviews. So what makes a good interview? One of those that I have on there is the YouTube show Hot Ones, where the tagline of the show is the show with hot questions and even hotter wings, where this guy named Sean Evans, he does these interviews, and he interviews celebrities while they eat hot wings that get progressively hotter, and the questions become increasingly more deep. But a lot of times in the interviews, the celebrities are like, wow, I can't believe you asked me that question. And not in an offensive way, but like, how did you know that about me? What about that makes it interesting? Why is the celebrity impressed by that, right? What about that interview is different when you ask those questions? But there's a couple other interviews you can kind of look at. What makes a good interview? What kinds of questions are you going to ask other than just like, you know, what kinds of tools do you use at work? But like, how are you going to make this a fully fledged interview that you can then turn into an interesting podcast that will be helpful and relatable to whatever audience you have chosen for your podcast, right? So again, I would just highly, 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 highly recommend that you find your person, you figure out how you're going to do the interview, and then you start coming up with those interview questions. And again, working on those uptake submission notes as you're going, of course. But that's pretty much it. This week is, again, just kind of, you know, we're getting into the Unit 2, you know, we're doing more of those student-led discussions. We're, you know, gearing up to start doing that project for Unit 2. And of course, if you have any questions, please email me. Please, if my lunchtime chats that time does not work for you, set up a time on Zoom for me to come and talk to you. I mean, I, you know, am home all the time. So I, you know, other than like other meetings that I have or, you know, things, I'm willing to meet with you anytime, you know, during the day to talk about things, because I want you to be successful in this class, right? Again, as of today when I'm recording this video, I'm not finished grading your class's projects yet, but I will be soon. So if you're waiting on those, don't worry, they will be in soon. I had a lot of things come up last week, including some medical stuff. I'm fine, but so I got a little bit behind on my grading, but they will be coming up soon. So I hope you all have a good week 8. Email me and we'll chat, and good luck with your project as you move along.